Alpha Motor is an exciting company. We've got Edward, the CEO, the founder, with us to discuss all kinds of things about the company. We're going to get into some details here. Let's just do it. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So here in the second part, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of it all. It looks like you're taking a more practical approach than a lot of manufacturers. A lot of manufacturers are trying to make every car they make a supercar. Would it be fair to say that because your cars are fast, but not like record-breaking fast, that you're going to have more affordable motors, more affordable brakes, shocks, all of that?
You have really awesome questions, by the way, right? Because it are questions that we need to ask. So in vehicle manufacturing, the key milestone you're trying to get to economies of scale, right? So in order to be profitable, in order to land the balance of what you're outputting versus what people are willing to pay for in terms of what you're producing.
Would the fact that these are not all supercars lead to less expensive parts and therefore a less expensive retail price for consumers?
Yes. So that is the goal. That is the goal. And I think you asked in the beginning, why does that happen? So one of the things about, I would say, just vehicle production or vehicle development manufacturing is that there's a balance that you need to hit. There's the law of diminishing returns. If we're making electric vehicles and let's say, for example, we want this vehicle today to go, if we say like 1,000 miles on a full charge, well, if trying to do that, you're going to need to equip the vehicle with that much more battery, which means the vehicle will become that much more heavier, which means greater compliance, which you need to pass, and more power in order to get a vehicle to drive. So that wouldn't be very efficient in terms of practicality, like what you were speaking on. So what we are trying to do at Alpha Motor is to hit the right balance of what people need in terms of power, range, efficiency, charging times, and so forth. So in doing that, what we're saying is, look, people want a basic, good-looking car that they can enjoy from on an everyday or daily basis, and it doesn't require for the vehicle to go 0 to 60 in like a second in order to deliver that kind of vehicle, is what we're saying.
Yeah. And for that matter, the bigger battery means increased cost and weight in terms of shocks, in terms of brakes, in terms of tires, wheels. It gets more expensive very quickly. Are there any concerns with crash testing on these retro designs? I haven't seen cars that look like this in a while, but I don't know the answer. Any concerns on that?
I love this question. So I hope there's an opportunity for us to share our vehicle in person with you, because when you see the vehicle in person, I think maybe from the pictures or videos, it's you may not get the full sense, but our vehicles are simple, so they come off as possibly retro, but the vehicles are sized like a mid-sized vehicle. These are mid-sized vehicles, not compact vehicles. And also, they're built to modern compliance standards, obviously for the modern world. So it doesn't have, I think, the structure that you're explaining as that is similar to perhaps, cars in the past. All of that has been updated, but we still maintain the simplicity of the vehicle and the forms. So perhaps from an aesthetic perspective, it looks right.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, so the real big questions that are outstanding at this point are things like, what's it going to cost? Do we even know yet? I know some numbers have been thrown around in the past, but the ones I saw were from before the last few years of inflation. And I think holding you to a price point this far from production would be difficult, but do you have a target?
Yeah, so based on our research, average new EV price is around, I believe, 53,000. So we want to be around the average price range. We want to be able to make our vehicles accessible. And based on our approach in smart production and also targeting practicality, we believe that is definitely a possibility. I think generally the industry will go in that direction because again, we're all working towards mass adoption of EVs. It's not sustainable just to rely on one type of energy source as the dominant source of the car. So I think generally the industry, and it's not just us. I think everybody is working towards that direction.
And do you have an idea where you intend to build them?
So we currently engineer, develop, design, manufacture everything here in Southern California. We're committed to domestic manufacturing, so building them here in the United States.
And there is a lot of talent in the US, and with some of the contractions we're seeing in the industry, you may have an opportunity to pick up some experienced engineers that otherwise would have been difficult to get. So the next obstacles, a big one, of course, is funding. Do you have an idea in mind for what a mass production factory would cost?
I think a general search will provide you with some estimated costs. Obviously, with Alpha Motors' approach, which is more frugal, like we're targeting smart production processes as well as a Miller manufacturing approach to everything. I think definitely we would those costs down. And I think that's the future of vehicle manufacturing, honestly, is we look at the street and I believe across the board, we all understand what kind of profit margin we need to target. We've seen some of these successes and milestones achieved by other people in the industry, like Tesla. So that gives a good example. It sets a good example and a realistic milestone, except with a new vehicle company like Alpha Motor, we're not tied to traditional ways. And this is why we stay agile and be realistic in the way the fundamentals and the foundation is up in order to actually achieve those kind of profit margins. And that's why our original technology or fundamental of the technologies have been focusing on smart production and manufacturing solutions that are more efficient.
Sure. Do you have ideas on where funding for a factory would come from? Do you have any leads on that yet?
Yes, so we are raising Lily.
You are what?
So it would come from the private markets. Yeah.
Okay. It is tough times to try and get EV money. 2020 was a bit easier. It feels like a lot of the money's fled to AI in recent years. I would just trying to think the numbers through here. I do know what factories cost. I would just, I would wonder if it might be possible to sell kits to short circuit it even more and get additional savings just to get units in motion. Are there any alternative distribution methods you've looked at or considered?
Yes, so we collaborate with distributors, and we have announced in the past that we have stepped into partnership with distributors to sell and provide our vehicles. But I think you're on the right track in terms of scalability. I think you're thinking more of a commodity like a certain component like a body, and then scaling into providing a full vehicle. I think for us, we are focused on building the entire vehicle and have built several now, and we will be building more in terms of, I would say, scaling from lower production into the mass market. Again, it's the way that we have set up our production processes and approach, which allow us to be able to scale from that lower volume to the higher volume. But an essential piece to all of this is the demand. The demand has been very strong for the vehicles on any level, whether it's mass market, or I would say, a private market. The demand has always been there for us. So we're focusing again on delivering, I would say, and scaling from a lower volume to into the mass market.
So, what are the remaining obstacles between today and eventual production?
I think realistically, you've covered a lot of them, Brian. So uh, I think I think one big obstacle across the board is, will electric vehicle sales increase, or will mass adoption accelerate? And I think we've seen that example in other countries as well as the United States. So, over 5% of new vehicle sales have been EV, which is a critical tipping point that leads to acceleration of adoption of technology, new technology like electric vehicles, and potentially it can go up to 25% of new car sales in the next, I don't know, 5-6 years. So that's, I think, the big homework, which I think is on a. Within that, for us, it's to really continue to resonate with consumers in terms of the vehicle that we chose to go into the market first with is trucks, and that consumers see a need for this. So I think what we need to focus on is, again, prioritizing what consumers are looking for, and for us to stay consistent with our focus on making the vehicle accessible, which will be a challenge. We've stated electric vehicle components like the battery, whatnot, are expensive. So how are we going to keep those costs down? And then another challenge is our commitment to keeping manufacturing here in the United States and sourcing and supplying everything that we build here in the United States. So that's another challenge that we have addressed, I would, on a lower volume production, but going into the mass market and really serving greater demand and scaling to that level is always going to be a challenge.
Okay, so it sounds like um, I would agree with you that if you build these, they will sell. It doesn't matter how many reservations you have. They're they're exciting, they're fun, they're different. We've seen that the market has a tremendous appetite for something new and exciting. So that part I'm not worried about. The obstacles, obviously you have to get a factory, outfit the factory, have enough funds to operate the factory. Um, and it's going to be an interesting challenge. It'll be an interesting road. And if I get a chance to come out to California this summer, which I may, I will certainly pay you a visit. I would love to see them in person. Edward, I want to thank you so much for your time. And I will ask one last question, which is when? Are we thinking by 26, 27? Any guesses yet?
So this is a great question, because I feel like the question is about getting to the mass market. So like this is
I'd say even the first 100.
So I would say on a lower volume, we're working to address that right now. So we do have a demand to fulfill lower volume. We'll be going after that and scaling up to obviously mass market. I think as a target, we want to get to the mass market in 2-3 years based on the development and maturity of the product development we've accomplished so far, as well as the market analysis and consumer insights we've gained in the past 4 years. I think we're ready to execute on that. But I think there's other factors like capital raise that you've mentioned, which is not within our control. There's lots of different things that factor into that, which we'll continue to work on as well. One thing that we know for sure is that you're right. People do want these vehicles, and we see that. And that's what our passion is, and what our experience is executing and delivering on the vehicles that people want. So we're focused on that. We'll be looking forward to possibly hosting you next year. and show you the vehicles in person.
That'd be great. So, guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? A huge thank you to Edward for joining us and giving us some insight on Alpha Motor. In the comments, let us know. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do what you do. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots, when you're driving your own Alpha Motor Ace or Wolf, either one.